This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. One of the things that I'm going to make a conscious effort to avoid doing, that I think a lot of people fall into doing, is being married to your pre-draft board, right? So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to bash a pick because that player wasn't taken at the spot that corresponds to where they were on whatever big board. But as we know, big boards in the pre-draft season, big boards in the draft season, big boards team to team, they don't really mean much, right? Because it's not a perfect way of predicting if a player is going to be good or not, or even if a player would be available. Just look at the number of surprises that happened at defensive tackle. Nobody had Ruke Orhorhoro going before Johnny Newton. But that's what happened in this year's draft. Somebody's board, Atlanta's board, said Ruke Orhorhoro over Johnny Newton. That, to me, means that you can't take the draft boards too seriously. And the Browns' picks in this draft are an example of that. There are going to be some people who do not grade the Browns draft, or at least the Browns haul in day two, favorably because they didn't get the guys that were high on their board. But that criticism is something that matters less and less as the days go by past the pick that you made, right? The further away we get from the draft, the less we're going to care about where they were on a draft board. I don't know where JOK was on somebody's big board. I don't know where Martin Emerson was on somebody's big board. I don't know where DeJuan Jones was on somebody's big board, but I do know that they are really good for the Browns. So Nick Chubb is another one, right? Where was Nick Chubb on the big board? I don't know. I don't care. Joe Bitonio, same thing. So just because somebody's high on somebody's big board does not guarantee that that player is going to live up to that potential or that that player is going to be necessarily good. The Browns took Michael Hall in the second round, and I think this is a solid pick. I like Michael Hall. Now, were there players that I liked more than Michael Hall? Sure. But Michael Hall was still a player that I like, and I'm not going to be upset that you took a player I like at a spot that maybe I wanted of, but I still like the player. And look, defensive tackle went on a run in this draft. As I'm talking right now, McKinley Jackson just went to Cincinnati. So that's another defensive tackle off the board. So a little bit more of a run on defensive tackle than I think any of us anticipated, which meant that the value on Michael Hall was a little bit higher than what these big boards had projected for Michael Hall to be. Now, what is the good about Michael Hall? Elite traits are there. He's 6'3". He has 33.5-inch arms. So he has long arms, perfect size build. He's under 300 pounds, but I need people to stop being so damn arbitrary about weight in the NFL. One, sometimes a player doesn't need to play at 300 pounds. If a player needs to pick up 10 pounds in the NFL, like, I would be more concerned about height or anything else. But if you're telling me a dude who's 6'3", already at 290, needs to pick up 10 pounds, okay, I don't care, because at 290, right, we're not talking about somebody who's going from Evan Mobley skinny to 300 pounds, right? We're not talking about that. When we talk about somebody who's already 290 pounds gaining 10 pounds, that's a summer, dog. He could do that in a summer if he needs to. And he's not going to have to, right? He's not in a situation where he's going to have to start right away. But he has great traits there. I think he's a great athlete at that size, 290 pounds, 6'3", ran a 4.75, and the explosiveness shows on tape. You see it on tape at Ohio State. You see it on tape at the Senior Bowl. He has explosive ability. That is the positive of him. I think he's going to be a good pass rusher day one at that defensive tackle position. He's long, he's strong, he has the potential to be a good run defender if you teach him some good technique, but he hasn't been there yet at Ohio State. He's not a good run defender coming into the league, but again, we're not going to ask him to be a good run defender in year one. We're going to ask him to get some snaps in every once in a while to rush the passer. That's really what we're going to ask Michael Hall to do. My comp to him is similar to Larry Ogunjobi, right? Larry Ogunjobi is a pretty good player. Now, when I say comp, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not saying that this is the best that player can be or this is the worst that player is going to be. When I comp somebody to somebody, I'm like, hey, this is what I think is the most likely scenario of their career playing out is similar to this guy. Larry Ogunjobi is a career that I think could be very similar. Larry Ogunjobi is a really good pass rusher. He has had moments as a run defender, but it's always been kind of a weakness in his game. I think that's kind of going to be where he's at. He's really twitchy, really elite when it comes to that quick twitch stuff. He's quick twitch more than anybody except for maybe Maurice Hurst on that defensive line. But he does have some issues in the run game. He does need to shore up his technique there. He does need to get a little bit stronger to get a little bit more stout in the run game. If he does those things, I think he'll be a great player. Another positive about him is that all accounts, I think this dude is a winner off the field. He comes from Streetsboro, so he's a Cleveland native, which is a nice little added touch. Played at Ohio State, comes to the hometown Cleveland Browns, so he does the Denzel Ward thing, kind of in the same area that Denzel Ward is from. But he does that, but more importantly, before I even knew he was a Cleveland kid, when I watched him at the Senior Bowl, I was like, wow, this kid's leading, right? He's 20 years old. He's one of the youngest players at the Senior Bowl, right? It's one of the few juniors that are there at the Senior Bowl, but he comes out there and he's juice guy, right? He's juice man at the practice. He's getting everybody hyped up. He's hyping up everybody at that practice, right? When they make a play, he's over there gassing them up, making sure his teammates have that energy, making sure he has that energy when he gets a rep. Like, I thought he was 24 watching him out there at the Senior Bowl just because the leadership and the maturity around his teammates struck me as one who's like 24 years old, but he's 20. So he has rare maturity, rare leadership ability at the age of 20, which makes me think, hey, if he does need to develop some things, maybe he has a type of personality where he can pick those things up and become a plus player. One of the things that the Browns want to do is get out of 1-year deal world with their defensive tackles, right? We got Shelby Harris. That's a 1-year deal. That's a short-term situation. We got Maurice Hurst. That's a short-term situation. The only long-term situation that you have here is kind of Dalvin Tomlinson, because he's on a 2-year/3-year deal, but we'll see how long he's on the roster as cap crunch happens, or if cap crunch happens to him, or if his play starts to fall off. We also have Siaki Ika. Oh yeah, Quinn Jefferson's also on the team, but that's a short-term situation. So you want to get out of 1-year deal world. You want to have your starters locked down. So if that's Dalvin Tomlinson plus a body, the body that you want to put next to him is probably Michael Hall. I think Michael Hall is going to be a good player for the Browns. I think he's going to be a nice rotational piece. I think he's going to have some moments for the Cleveland Browns. I think he's going to flash in preseason. You're going to see this dude in camp and you're going to go, oh my God, he's super quick. He's super fast. I see why the Browns picked him at 54. The talent is there. The consistency is not. But when we're talking about a player who's 20 years old, that's okay. You can find consistency from somebody who's 20 going into their 20s, right? Like, he ain't even in his 20s for real. Like, that's how young he is, right? If this were a 24-year-old with that level of inconsistency, I would be more concerned. But the fact that he's 20 and he's inconsistent, well, that's just what 20-year-olds are, right? So as he gets older, he will get more consistent, or at least that is the hope, that he can find more consistency. And if he does that, he is a great, not a great player, but he's going to be a pretty damn good player for the Cleveland Browns, and he will get you out of 1-year deal world at defensive tackle. So I like the pick, right? He does need to find more consistency. You would have loved to see more consistency over his career at Ohio State, but he's a super young, raw prospect that I think will pan out in the long term. And again, I see people having these hot take reactions, calling the pick a bust. getting mad about this, getting mad about that, cussing somebody out because they wanted somebody else, getting mad at me because I like other players at the spot, getting mad at somebody else because they don't like this pick or because they like this pick. And I just want to make sure everybody understands how you feel about the draft right now is literally the least important that you'll ever feel about these draft picks. This is when it matters the least how you feel about them. Because they haven't gone in for a practice yet. They haven't gone in and taken a rep yet. They haven't gone in and impressed the coaches yet. They haven't done a single thing. How you feel about the draft right now will mean the least when it comes to how this will actually affect the team going forward. And it's important to keep that in mind. That doesn't mean that you don't get excited over picks that you like. That doesn't mean that you don't get upset if they don't take a guy that you like, right? You can feel how you feel, but always keep that in mind that it only goes so far because ultimately none of us know, right? We ain't going to know if that's a good pick until like 2-3 years from now. So keep that in mind. Be willing to be wrong, right? I like Roger Rosengarten. I liked Roger Rosengarten over the potential of drafting Michael Hall. I might be wrong on that. I'm going to give myself the potential to be wrong on that. Or I might be right, but it don't matter, right? Roger Rosengarten might be awesome, but so might Michael Hall. And it's not going to matter if I'm right. Nobody going to care. Same thing can be true for the pick at 85, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But just if you're one of those people getting all up in your bag, furious about this pick or that pick, or furious that other people are mad, just leave yourself room to be wrong. Because ultimately, we don't know. We ain't going to find out this year, and we ain't going to find out next year. We're going to find out in 3 years. That's when the debate will be settled. So it ain't that deep right now. That's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.